know whether to get out of bed because, you get kind of so used to all these. And then after a while I said, okay, and I just got up and got underneath the doorway and just wrote it out, but it really didn't seem that bad.
You say that it wasn't as strong as the Lander's quake, so it may lead us to believe that possibly the epicenter might be centered more towards here, towards the Burbank area than for you folks.
As bad. Because it seemed like when you first came on the air, it was like you were more, said that you were more shook up. And I wasn't that shook up because if it was stronger, I would have been. But it wasn't that strong, so I think, it was more centered down towards your guys' area.
Now, necessitation, provide emergency aid as first aid is needed, and do not try to move a seriously injured person unless they're in immediate danger of further injuries.
Eric,
we're having another
thing in Aftershock right now, as a matter of fact. And it is shaking things up here, needless to say.
Yeah. Well, for the number of aftershocks we've had after the initial
cement or debris, reports of fires in Southern California. We have about 5 fires so far reported, 3 in the San Fernando Valley, which would make sense considering that's where the earthquake is centered. Lights are
shaking
out
right now
all over Los Angeles, particularly in the San Fernando Valley. People who are expecting help from the authorities, you have to realize that it's going to be some time before the authorities gear up for this. Even people closest to the scene, which would be the fire department, they are moving their equipment and have already outside of their fire stations, checking for the integrity of their own stations, and they have to do their own surveys of damage in their area. So unless it's an absolute emergency in the sense of
everything was completely dark outside. A couple of things driving in for people who need to go to work at this time of the hour. Please note that there are a lot of street lights that are not working at this hour.
And all the preparation that we've been making over the past years comes in handy. That means you're pretty much on your own for the moment. If you have any...
We'll be off the streets anyway. Schools are closed today in many areas.
Rolling sensation. It started slowly and then built in magnitude. But obviously, this area here in Hollywood it's much worse.
As you came in, you saw that the lights
are out.
Yeah.
Coming up the hill into Eagle Rock, you can look down into Glendale, and it was an eerie sight. There was absolutely no lights on down there, except for the emergency lights on top of buildings.
Okay.
So that was it.
All right. 75 is the high today.
I'll leave this with you. I'll leave this with you. I'll go clean my room.
You do good work, my friend. And we're going to try once again to talk to Captain Ron at Air 7, who is up in Newscopter 7, and we'll get that aerial perspective from him right now. Captain Ron, can you hear me? Well, maybe we're not.
You hear me? Gene? I copy and I copy. Do you hear me, Gene? Gene, can you hear me? Okay. Gene, you can't hear me. Okay, Gene, we're out right now in the San Fernando Valley, and let me describe what I saw to you as I took off from Hollywood. The greater Los Angeles area was just completely dark. When I took off from there, we saw one fire out towards the Santa Monica area. The darkness extended from the Santa Monica area east all the way through downtown. The only lights that we saw out there were those from headlights. From there, we went into the San Fernando Valley. And at this point, I'm in I'm north of Van Nuys Airport, probably just east of Northridge. I've counted 6 fires out here. Right now, I'm over a very large fire. We're just north of the 118, and we're west of the 405 freeway. This appears to be a broken gas main. Now, this is a major gas main. I'm looking at flames that are jumping 150 feet into the air. It's got one house that I can see of. I'm sorry, right now it's 2 houses that are burning out here as a result of this gas main. The fire department is standing by here just south of it. Also right here where this gas main is burning, the water main is also burning, and there's just large amounts of water that are flooding south down the street here. Very, very horrible sight out here. As we look around, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 other fires, 5, 6, 7 other fires right now that are burning just in about a 2-mile radius of what I'm circling on right now. The entire San Fernando Valley is black out here, with the exception of these fires that we're looking at. Earlier I was at a fire just north of Burbank Airport, and this was a house fire just south of the freeway, just about Hollywood Way, a little bit west of Hollywood Way. And people were standing outside. The unfortunate thing there is there was no fire equipment. It appears that all the fire equipment is spread very thin right now. In fact, now, Gene, as I look up to the north, I'm counting 1, 2, 3. I see 7 fires just to the north of me right now. They appear to be all structure fires, and everything that I've seen so far, other than this huge fire that I'm over right now, I see no fire equipment. We do see a lot of them in the streets. However, right now they're just trying to hit areas that they can get. But right here, just north of Van Nuys, in fact, now I see another fire breaking out just south of me, and we're talking just a half a mile south of me is a brand new fire. There's a lot of fires here in this North Valley up here. We're just slightly east of Northridge, and we're just north of the 118. And I could get a better idea here. It looks like I can see Van Nuys Airport right now. There's so much smoke out here, it's very hard to really determine where you are because all the lights are out and there's a lot of smoke. But we're just west of Balboa, north of the 118, and that's where we have this major gas leak out here that is on fire, and the flames are at least 150 feet into the air. Fire department is on scene, but they're standing by, at least 200 yards south of it.
Okay, Ron, and that's in the area of Northridge, west of the 405 freeway, where most of those fires are burning?
Yes, and that's affirmative. That's where we're looking now. The other fires to the north would be up along the 210 freeway, out in that direction, up towards Sylmar area, yes.
Okay, Ron, stand by a minute. We're going to toss downstairs to Susan Campos. I'm going to join her down there, and we'll get back to you in just a minute on this major development as the earthquake here, 6.5 on the Richter scale, has started a number of major fires out there in the San Fernando Valley. We're going to get back to you with more coverage of that in a minute. Susan?
All right, Gene, thank you very much. We just want to remind you, like so many areas, we are without electricity here in Hollywood, and throughout the city there are many areas that people are without electricity, so we are trying to do the best we can with what we have. Also with me right now is Charmaine Wilkerson, and I know so many of us were jolted out of bed this morning by this quake, measuring 6.5 on the Richter scale. I know over at my home, everything seems to be on the ground. You know, there's glass everywhere, pictures, and at this point I think everybody's waiting for the sun to come up so we can actually assess the damage.
Yes, I think assessing the damage is one of the difficulties, Susan, because with our building, for example, where I live, the damage was extensive. All the furniture, all the large bureaus and shelves in my home came down onto the ground. We could hear running water in the building, and that becomes a disturbing mystery because you want to know, is the water running or isn't it?
Right, that's what everybody's trying to find out. Everybody also trying to find out about electricity throughout the area, and of course, I'm sure throughout the day we'll see the electricity going on, and once the sun comes up, everybody will be able once again to assess the damage. Now we are on a 2-shot, and we can, you were coming from the Valley area, and they're saying that it was centered somewhere in the San Fernando Valley.
That's right, and of course it's always difficult to tell this. That's the information from Caltech, but what I can say is in comparing it to the Landers quake, Susan, I was in the same place both times in bed, and I know that this one clearly was noisier, and also the difference in damage. Everything, as I say in my home, I can speak for that, is down on the ground. Everything that's breakable is broken. Furniture is, I just arrived from New York a few hours ago, furniture fell onto my suitcases, but I think the thing is, of course, when you know that it hasn't fallen on you, you're grateful, and then you begin to look at the damage that was caused. I think one point I'd like to stress, since I'm here, is, and certainly I can relate to this personally, is that I just flew in from New York, not having even called my family back east because the flight was late and because of the time difference. Needless to say, I know that once the news gets out that an earthquake has hit, they are in a panic. We try to have that arrangement where you can call out of state to get information, to try to maintain a contact with your friends and loved ones, trying not to call within the state. So that's something that that we ought to stress. Remember that it's difficult to get in touch, and you want to try to keep the phone lines as clear as possible.
And those phone lines, yes, those phone lines really are jammed. We want to quickly go live to Joe McMahon, who is in Hollywood, and he is at a home where apparently there is major damage. Joe.
Susan, we're in an apartment complex in the Los Feliz area, the 2900 block of Waverly Drive, and I think you can get an idea of what happened. This is typical of the calls we've been getting at the station, and probably typical of what happened around the Los Feliz area. Books knocked off the shelves, pictures knocked to the floor, everything in disarray. This is the apartment of one of our photographers, Keith Albert, and everything is a mess. He's got an award that's broken in half that's on the floor, and the stereo unit is on the floor also. The apartment building was evacuated. Everyone got out when that quake hit at 4:29 this morning, and there are several broken water mains in here. And with us is Scott Bennett. Scott, come on over here. You're the manager of this building. How bad is it?
Well, we've got 2 inches of water standing in some of the apartments upstairs, but everybody is out and not hurt. That was the most important part, because we have one young lady that's pregnant. She was...
Yes, I do, Captain Ron. Go ahead, it's yours.
Okay, thanks a lot. We're looking at the fire that we were talking about earlier. Now, this fire is on Balboa Boulevard, and it's about 3/8 of a mile north of the 118 freeway. Now, as I come around, let me see if I can get you a little bit better shot. I'm going to go through the smoke here, and it'll get dark just for a second, and then we'll come out on the other side. This fire has been burning continuously, well, at least that I know of. I've been watching it for about 30 minutes now. And the rough thing about this is it's got 3 houses right now that are on fire. The surrounding houses, there's 2 on the west side, and now there's a 3rd house that is completely involved on the east side. And bear with me on my picture here. I'll get you a little bit better shot. There we go.
And we're getting, as you're talking, Captain Ron, we're getting another aftershock here, so go ahead.
Okay, it's the one good thing about a helicopter, I don't feel those things. Now I'm going to get down just a little bit lower here, and you'll be able to get an idea of just how large these flames are. I see now another house that is burning out here, so that's 4 houses that are burning as a result of this huge flame. This flame is going up at least 150 feet, and I know the picture is not real good, but possibly you can get an idea of just how huge this fire is. I can feel the heat from it up here in the helicopter. It's an extremely hot fire.
More standing by there. Linda, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. Go ahead and talk to us. Tell us about that.
As you were saying, this has to be one of the worst hit areas out here, and as we're getting more information, I think we are discovering that this area here is really probably very near where the epicenter was. I think you pointed out our location. We are north of the 118 at the intersection of Rinaldi, and this is Balboa, the north side of Balboa. And from what we can tell, it seems that one of the gas mains broke, obviously, but not just the gas. As you can see, the water main has exploded as well, and huge amounts of water are pouring down south from Balboa Boulevard. And if you can see the cars, can you guys come here a second? You can see the cars here in the middle of the street. Apparently, the road just split open here on Balboa, and these cars were stuck. You're one of those who had your car there?
Yeah, it's behind the point, but the ground is cracked open. There's gas flowing out of the ground.
Well, were you driving to work when it happened?
Oh no, we just tried to bail out of the house. Our house is probably lit up right by now. I don't know.
And so you were driving out trying to get away,
right.
And what happened? The street just opened up?
The cracks started appearing, and then gas started flaming up. And there, in the beginning, it was just like fumes, and then it just exploded.
And do you know if anybody's been hurt?
I don't know. We just bailed out. As far as I know, there's people stuck on the other side.
Yeah, the problem here is that we can't get any farther north, and the emergency crews are having problems getting up north on Balboa too, because the water is just flowing down here. As you can see, just a huge raging river right now, and you can see a lot of the residents are standing in front of their properties here, just looking out. Well, also what we can't send over the air is the fact that the smell here is just tremendous. There's just a horrible smell of gas right now, and we're all a little bit concerned because there's a gas station right here, within just a few yards of where we're standing.
Mike, now that the sun is up, you can see the magnitude of the, really, no way to describe it, but a disaster here. The Santa Monica Freeway has been severed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the damage here. This is the Fairfax and Washington Bridge, and as you can see, It has just come up about 3 or 4 feet. The bridge has come up from the freeway here, buckled into center there. It is just really almost indescribable here. And you can see it going all the way across all lanes of the Santa Monica Freeway here at Fairfax and Washington. You can see the major concrete damage here, and there have been many victims here. We've talked to a couple of the drivers, miraculously escaped this problem here. This car here, you can see here, Ramon, go ahead and pan to the red car here. This guy told me he was coming down the freeway and just simply careened off of this 4-foot drop. But luckily there were 2 people inside the car. They made it fine. However, we're not sure about this driver here to our right in this silver truck here. There's quite a bit of blood inside of this car and broken glass, and as you can see, he just hit this thing as soon as this freeway bridge came up. He was just very bad timing and hit this thing head on.
Lost your home?
And one of the witnesses did see him, and his head hit the windshield here, and he just took off. We don't know where he is right now.
So I'm glad I did that, because I'm afraid it would have been off its foundation.
Do you have earthquake insurance, by the way?
Yes, I do have earthquake insurance, but not full replacement.
No.
Very difficult situation. As you're telling us about what happened in the Lake Hollywood area, we're looking at a live picture from Chopper 2 flying over the San Fernando Valley, where earlier Bob said there were about 9 fires in the area, mostly we believe from ruptured gas mains, but it's hard to tell.
Your children had to be panicked. I know my little boy was quite panicked.
Yes,
this morning.
Colin is okay. He's back in the newsroom.
Playing with your kids.
Playing with my kids. I'm going to move in now. I don't know. This is going to be my home for a while.
We've got a few earthquake kits here.
Yes, we do. And my daughter kept saying, "Mommy, is Aaron going to die?" It was so terrifying for her, because as we were trying to break down the door to his room, we couldn't get to him, and he was screaming, and I just had to keep screaming through the door to him, "Aaron, are you okay? Are you okay?" And his cries told me he was frightened. But of course I had visions that perhaps his crib had moved over to the side where the windows were, and didn't know if the aftershock might break the windows on top of him.
You got your children outside the house as quickly as possible, I assume.
What I did was I waited for some aftershocks in the door jamb upstairs, because I did not know, seeing what kind of damage I had, I didn't know how bad it was downstairs.
Bree, we're going to go up to Chopper 2. Bob Turner's up there.
Get me on the air.
Bob, what is that's burning?
We've had a gas main explode out here, and when that gas main blew, look what it took out. It took out at least 5 homes, have blown up and burned away. This location, also some water mains.
Where are you, Bob?
Hello, do you hear Chopper 2?
Yes.
Where are you?
Okay, I'm going to give you the location. This is above the 118 freeway. We're in just above the 118 freeway. What's the name of the street here? Looks like Reseda. Okay, Reseda, about Rinaldi. It's Rinaldi.
That's where Linda Moore was earlier.
It's literally split here. We've had major water mains blow. In addition, we've also had a major gas line blow, leveling 5 homes.
How long ago did that gas line blow, Bob?
It's been about 40 minutes ago.
Okay, that is the same location we were looking at earlier. Linda Moore is down there on the ground, and they were smelling gas quite heavily. They were beginning to evacuate people from the surrounding streets.
That's right. What we need to do, and I just can't stress it enough. We're going to see. I've been in a lot of major earthquakes, and what we need to do is start cutting our gas lines right now, turning off our gas, because if your pilot lights are out and your home fills up for gas, or if there's any other fires in the area, you can look at an explosive situation, as we're graphically seeing here at Rinaldi
Freeway. This is a 16-unit apartment building. As you can see, the entire 16-unit apartment building has been knocked off of its foundation. The building has dropped down. These were carports here, so where you are seeing the building now, it looks as if that's where the building touches the parking lot. No, those are carports underneath. The entire building has come down on top of these carports. In fact, as Chris can show you underneath here, there are cars trapped inside the building here. People tell us that nobody is trapped in this building. They have gone through, they tell us there is no one trapped, but it is a miracle. In fact, as we take you out here onto Woodman Avenue now, let me bring you out. A lot of water running here. This water is coming out of that building because all the pipes inside the building are broken. That 16-unit apartment building is down. Here is the front of the building, and as you can see, it has taken a pretty serious hit. This was your bedroom here?
That's my bedroom.
You were in there when it happened?
Yes.
How did you get out? Because that doesn't look much like a bedroom anymore.
It pulled away from the wall, and after it stopped shaking, we were able to climb down. Fortunately, the roof didn't cave in on us. Our bedroom just pulled away from the rest of the apartment.
This is a rude awakening early in the morning to have your bedroom fall right out of the building here.
Yeah.
But you're okay?
Yeah, and I'd like to tell my parents and our families, if they're watching, that we're okay.
Yeah, we've had a number of people tell us, when you get on the air, tell our families we are okay from this building here. Again, this is on Woodman, south of the Ventura Freeway. And let me just show you how big this problem has become from all of the other buildings as well. Folks, we'll pull our cables through you here if we may.
Bill, before you leave that area,
Yes.
can you tell us the address of that building?
No,
where
I can't.
apparently...
What is the address? What's the street address?
4474.
4474 Woodman. 4474 Woodman. Everybody is out, they say. Everybody is out. The building looks like hell, but everybody is out. In fact, to show you how everybody is out, here on the street here, there are perhaps 600 or 700 people from all of the other apartment buildings as well. They've pulled their cars out into the center divider. This is looking south on Woodman. The smoke in the distance is the hill fire, the house fire on the hill that Bob Turr showed you earlier. Everybody here on all of these apartments, they've pulled their vehicles out of the carports, obviously seeing this carport collapse a minute ago. They've pulled their cars into the center divider. They are all parked along, and as we swing around to the north, you can see the people waiting. Now in the distance, that is the Ventura Freeway at Woodman. You see the Great Western Bank building in the distance, the Ventura Freeway at Woodman.
We're having another shaker right now, Bill.
We don't feel one here just yet, so we'll hold on. You can see traffic on the Ventura Freeway. At least we can see the eastbound lanes. That is moving. So again, people are moving through here. We'll take you one more time quickly back to this apartment building as we come past this huge crowd of people outside. This apartment building collapsed down on the carports, as we showed you from the side a few minutes ago. Everybody is safely out. These folks here, as you can see, in fact, Chris, on your left, let me show the people here. Folks kind of recovering from the shock of this. This was quite a morning, wasn't it?
Oh, unbelievable. This is like a movie. It's not reality. I feel like
Here we're having another big one right now, Bill.
I never saw something like that.
All right. They're feeling a bigger quake in fact, I can see the building shaking just a little bit here right now. So we are getting a little bit of this aftershock here, but standing outside, we don't feel it as much. So there are people inside there trying to go through things and see what they can find. That's a very dangerous place. We have no emergency crews here on the scene right now, but I will also say that none are right now needed. There are a lot of places where they are needed more. So again,
Okay, this is Bob Turr in Chopper 1070, Chopper 2. We're over another area here above Sylmar, where at least 20 mobile homes are fully engulfed in flames. LA Fire Department has been doing some water drops with the county fire department. That's the only way they've been able to get into this area and actually do any effective firefighting. But this is a wildfire situation in a mobile home park. We also have the Santa Anas moving into this area. They're starting to build up out in the desert, and that may be a bigger problem. As dawn rises, we're starting to get some of those Santa Ana winds. About 20 mobile homes below, fully engulfed in flames. These are caused by gas leaks and explosions and fire spreading to additional structures. Okay, here's the situation. We've over Rinaldi, right above the 118 freeway, an explosion, a gas main took out 5 homes. Literally took out 5 homes, and also some water mains at that location have also broken apart, spewing water into the street.
But most of the freeways are pretty much under siege at this hour. The 118 is closed, the 14 is closed, the I-5 is closed in Valencia, Santa Monica Freeway closed, PCH because of...
We're having another aftershock.
Yeah, we're having another aftershock because of massive landslides at Chautauqua and Temescal is closed. The I-5 at 126 out in the Palmdale area is also shut down at this point.
It is the worst damage. 3 homes literally collapsed on a hillside. The folks all got out with their lives. Now, what you are looking at are 3 homes that were completely wiped off their foundations and swept down the hillside. One of the homeowners is joining us now. His name is Ron Douglas. Ron, tell us what happened this morning.
Well, I woke up and there was this shaking vibration, and the next thing I knew, the house was on top of me. I had no idea where I was, and then it took me about 10 minutes to climb up. So that's about it. I can't believe I walked away from this.
When we look down, we see the destruction, total destruction of your home. We're looking at a miracle here that you folks got out alive.
Yes, and the other 2 neighbors too. I think it's a real miracle.
And the reason is the fire department is stretched beyond their limits. Off-duty firefighters everywhere are now pouring into their stations. But here's a big water main break. And this water main that you're watching right now, this services the Van Nuys and San Fernando Valley. And as you can see, you're going to have water interruption. Now, let me pan over here. This reservoir right here is so far has been stressed. Has been under a lot of stress. However, it stood the test. It's still standing. It's still sound. That's the good news. We haven't seen any.
But I just called out of state. I was able to get out, but only briefly, and then we were cut off. Also, this goes without saying, I guess at this point, LA Mayor Richard Riordan has declared a local state of emergency because obviously nobody knows what the extent of the damage is at this point. Also, I'm getting word that LAX has been shut down. Obviously, as a precautionary measure, we don't know whether the runways there have sustained damage, but obviously authorities will want to check that out before any flights are able to come in or leave. So that will create a huge problem all across the country today, I would assume, if that airport is shut down. Also, we should tell you that Department of Water and Power doesn't really know about the drinkability of water here in Los Angeles as yet.
Broken gas main, and you have to be very, very careful in getting in there and fighting a blaze like this.
Rob Marshall, are you able to hear us now in Sky 9? Apparently not.
I'm afraid to say, David, it looks like at this point there's no stopping this fire as it moves from one mobile home to the next.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like there's no one there to stop it. And that's not to point a finger at firefighters who may be overwhelmed in another area. We don't really know, but it seems to me that I don't see firefighting activity, don't see flashing lights, don't see equipment there. In fact, I didn't see people out on the street at all.
Well, Joe now. Joe, can you hear us?
Okay, are we live?
Yes, you are live.
Okay, we are live. We're at the 9500 block of Reseda Boulevard, and this probably is going to be the worst damage we've seen. We're told this was a three-story building. Part of it has collapsed onto itself. There have been a number of rescues, and just a few minutes ago, they took one man out of a second-story apartment. We're told that the situation here was just terrible when it hit. And if we could get over here, Keith, we'll just start with this gentleman. What's your name?
Tim Stark.
Where were you, Tim? And
on the third level.
No, wait a minute. This was a three-story building.
It was a three-story building. You're looking at the first floor. That's at the step here. Below, around that circumscribes the whole building, are carports, which are collapsed upon cars. You are looking right now at a rescue attempt at the first floor. They're on the second floor right now.
What we're looking at, where that fireman is, was the second floor.
With the way the hall shaked, even before this, I had a feeling in a big earthquake, this place would go down.
How many people do we have trapped in there? How many people were hurt? How many people have been taken out?
We rescued a few. There's a lot of people that are unaccounted for. You figure there's probably at least maybe 50 to 75 lower first-level apartments.
Now, when the quake hit, where were you? Describe for me what happened.
I was sleeping. The bed shook from wall to wall, basically. The windows were buckling in. The walls were buckling in. I could hear the refrigerator hit the wall that was inside. It made the 71 earthquake look like a popcorn machine. I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
How many units, how many people live here?
I'd say roughly anywhere from 250 to about 400. Okay. There's a lot of people here, 50% elderly, and the rest are mixed between students and so forth.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go over here and talk to some people in the fire department. Excuse me. Well, we can't get him.
We're not ready to give you any information right now. You're just going to have to stand by, okay?
Any indication of how many people hurt or killed?
We don't know yet. Obviously, you can see that the building is pancaked down onto the first floor. So what we're trying to do is go from the second floor, cut down through the flooring to get down into the underneath area, what was once the first floor.
Paul, this is the I-5 and the Antelope Freeway?
Yeah, that would be the southbound Antelope Valley Freeway transition to the southbound 5.
So that's the 14 as it leaves the Antelope Valley for all of the people who live up in the Palmdale, Lancaster, Acton, Santa Clarita area. All of those people take this very transition road to get into Los Angeles every day to commute.
Absolutely, and that is now
heavily hit this time. Laurel, what else can you tell us?
Well, the CHP has now moved in to officially close down the freeway. Several hundred yards down there, they have put in the yellow tape. That house fire over to the right is still burning, Lou. I don't know if you can pan over there. Let's take a closer look at this freeway as the sun is coming up. Now, we are right between the La Cienega exit and the Fairfax exit. Let's get a little closer here, down here. You can see where this chunk of freeway has fallen off. The freeway naturally would be going uphill and that whole area has come down. It is about 30 to 50 feet of concrete, a slab of concrete that has just crashed down. The wire meshing that is supposed to hold it all together, in fact, held it somewhat, but it is still fallen down. The CHP is trying to keep onlookers, curiosity seekers, off the freeway. They're only letting media people on here to take pictures. Now, we do have an update on the car. Lou, in case people weren't watching a little earlier, let's go a little bit back here, and we can show the folks the cars. There were 2 cars that apparently collided when this thing hit. And we now know that 1 individual has been taken to the hospital. The CHP did not know which hospital he had been taken to or the severity of the injuries.
Laurel,
do we have,
I was wondering if you could update us too. Have they found anyone trapped underneath? When we talked to Lacey a little bit earlier, he said that 2 people lived underneath that freeway, and I'm sure a lot of folks are wondering if they were able to get out or if they survived.
There's 2 CHP gentlemen standing right here, sir and sir. Have we had any update on whether or not there was any individuals in the storage area below? Have you heard at all? And what about the individual who was driving the black car? He was taken to the hospital. Do you know which hospital or anything about the injury?
No, I don't. I know that West LA.
And the other individual from the other car?
I'm not aware of their disposition.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Laurel, we just would like to remind our viewers that on the left-hand side of their screen, it just went away, we were looking at pictures from the northern San Fernando Valley. These are helicopter pictures. We're not sure the exact location, but we can assume that there's some place around the Antelope Freeway in the Golden State. I would say somewhere near Sylmar in the northern San Fernando, the city of San Fernando. Earlier, Chuck and Colleen were talking about mobile homes on fire. It looks that these are structures, permanent structures, but there are several homes there, rows of homes that have been demolished, flattened by the earthquake, as well as set on fire by some of these gas leaks that we've been talking about all morning long.
The mobile home park, by the way.
Yeah. People who lived through that 1971 earthquake, which happened to be on February 9th, they are still talking about how powerful that earthquake was, and you can imagine how they feel this morning when, how many years are we? 13 years after that earthquake, and still another powerful one hits that area.
23. And in fact, as we look at all 23. Of the live pictures, it's really something. That mobile home park, if you take the 210 freeway, you know it well. It's in an area of Sylmar that is mostly rural. There are horse trailers in the area. There are horse stables as well. And it's a working-class neighborhood, and it's a mobile home park that's been there, gosh, I don't know how long, but it's just one of the fixtures that you see off the freeway. And this morning, as we've been hearing, as many as 20 or even more mobile homes are burning. Because
here at Cal State Northridge, the parking structure here has given way, collapsing, buckling over on the east end. As we fly over here, okay.
It is just incredible to think of what would have happened had classes been in session, if it had been just a few hours later.
There you can see. Now, another important thing, Bree, Marika, pan up to all those people. We have people actually camping outside. They've left their buildings with good reason. They've left their buildings. They're camping out on the grass. And you can see why. Let's go back to what's going on here.
Can you tell where the dormitories are?
Say again?
Can you tell where the dormitories are there?
Oh, the dormitories for the school, most of the people live off campus in small apartments, and some the dormitories look fine. They look fine.
This area who are in grave need of medical help. Sir, what's your situation?
This is the dislocated shoulder section.
What happened, sir?
My wool unit behind my bed collapsed right on me and popped my shoulder out.
Have you been able to receive medical help yet?
Yeah, I've been given some painkiller, but there's been a lot of people in very bad shape that they're doing the right thing. They're taking the people who are in worse shape first. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if I feel selfish, I wish I was in there right now, but there's people in a lot worse shape.
According to people here at the scene, they said it started on the northern end of the park and spread south as the wind blew it south. Firefighters told us it's a very dangerous situation. Even now, pretty much the fire is out, but the problem, of course, is that these structures are so very fragile that the gas lines underneath are pretty unstable. And so this becomes a precarious situation to be in. You can see right there, homes people worked their whole lives were absolutely destroyed. In fact, one of the women who lived here at the park told me there was only one structure that seemed to survive it, and then it got hit by the fire. This gentleman tells us more. What did you see this morning?
Flames. They started in here, I guess, when the shake came, I guess one of the gas mains blew, and whether it was from burners in the stoves or what, but it started right here and continued all the way down the street to where the garbage dumps are there. Jumped over to the other street, and because of these, all these mobile homes on the next street over went all the way down there too, and right down to the wash house down here. And then it started down the other side of the street. The fire departments came up here first, and because of a water leak across the street in one of the mains, they had no water pressure, so there was nothing. The fire department got here, but they couldn't do anything because they had absolutely no water pressure at all.
We're back to live. We're back live, and again, we are standing on the southbound section of the Interstate 5 freeway, right past the Los Angeles city line, the city limit sign, here and just beyond the Santa Clarita Valley. This is the 14 interchange that connects onto the southbound 5 freeway, and as you can see, it's collapsed. If you have any intention of driving along any of these sections, I would forget it for the time being. Now, I know that CHP is making an effort to try and divert traffic around all of this and are working on it, and there are certain sections that are open. I have not been able to see it from the air to tell you exactly what those are, but this is Rick Romero reporting live from the southbound 514 interchange.
Here to be conscious as he was taken past the camera on the gurney. He was taken to a local hospital where he'll be treated and most likely kept for a day or two as they try to examine his injuries. Again,
shot by movie director Bob Logan, who lives in the Studio City area. 3 houses on Buena Park Drive collapsed on the hill above him southeast of Laurel Canyon, Ventura Boulevard. This tape, as you can see, that's a Mercedes that's just hanging over the edge right there. A lot of rubble. He also told us at least 4 people were injured, including a woman who was trapped, but no one was seriously injured. And later, when we went to a live shot about 30 minutes ago, the car had already gone over the edge and was sitting in the rubble, which was once someone's home.
Okay, as we firefighters still in there, if we can zoom in on that just a little bit, it looks as if they are still efforting a rescue there. The fatality count at this point is up to 10. At least 5 of them died in this apartment complex here. We know several people suffered heart attacks this morning, and an especially tragic story from Rancho Cucamonga.
Gangway! Hey, all right, you guys. Let's get there, man. Some room to work here, okay?
Oh, that sky looks beautiful.
Here at the Northridge Meadows apartment up here in Northridge, just west of the Cal State Northridge. We're going to continue our survey around the area and try to find more shots for you, but this is Bob Petty reporting live from the Channel 4 helicopter right now. Back to you in the studio.
Bob, what are you seeing on the horizon there as you look out? A lot of fires still, or most of them been put out?
Most of them have been put out, although we still see the residual white smoke from various different fires that were burning earlier. We're still seeing dust coming off the hills from the aftershocks. Every time an aftershock hits, you'll see what appears to be smoke, but is actually dust coming down off the hills. But the black pall of smoke that covered this whole valley this morning at 5, when I first started flying, is dissipated now. But you do see lots of the little white smokes coming up. Let me take you a little wide. Okay, we're over Northridge, and I'm going to come back wide and kind of point up towards the Sylmar area. If Dane will pull the camera around and look up towards Sylmar, we'll show you the clear sky and then the dust and the residual smoke out there on the horizon. This is the only thing that's left. We see no columns of black smoke such as earlier were from Cal State Northridge or from out in the Chatsworth area with residences and up in the Laurel Canyon area with residences. Those fires have been put out. Most of the gas leaks have been snuffed, but still residual smoke coming up from the burned homes. Here, just up ahead of us is where some apartments burned here, just immediately west
of the Cal State Northridge campus. It looks like a huge apartment or condo complex, wood shake roofs, and we've got 3 of the major buildings here completely razed to the ground with fire, probably an indication that there were gas leaks earlier. This is right on the campus, or just west of the campus of Cal State Northridge, just south of Nordoff, up here in the Northridge area. But again, all the major fires put out. That apartment building, the Northridge Meadows apartment, is the worst scene of residences we've seen so far as trapped people. But we've got multiple homes up in the Sylmar area, mobile homes destroyed. I would say 30 to 40 homes destroyed up in the Sylmar area. And we've seen sporadic homes that, of course, their gas mains broke and caught on fire.
Captain
and
Bob?
as we get more, yes, sir?
Yeah, what are we looking at here?
You're looking at an apartment or condominium complex immediately west of the Cal State Northridge campus. It's a very large complex, probably about 30 or 40 buildings like the ones that just burned right there. Each one of those long rectangles represents one of these units, which would...
Of Reseda Boulevard.
One of the things when we reestablished contact with Joe Rico, who's down on the ground, is to find out exactly how many people lived in this apartment complex. Obviously, they are not going to be able to go back to their homes at all, so you've got a lot of displaced people here. Once again, that call for help, too, at the Granada Hills Community Hospital, where they are calling for doctors, surgeons, nurses, because 2 other facilities in the area were closed down. The Northridge Hospital as well as Holy Cross Hospital have been closed because of damage to those facilities.
And as we continue to look at live pictures from Northridge, we need to tell you this is a warning for everyone who has DWP water. You cannot drink the tap water in the area. The DWP has advised us it could be dangerous because of water leaks and seepage, so you should not drink it. If you have to, you need to boil it for several minutes and make sure it's sterile before you do drink it.
Damage out there in that area. That is the main focus of the LA County jurisdiction at this time. Majority of this seems to be in the LA City area, but we are assisting them. But the major focus in the LA County area is the Santa Clarita Valley area.
Give me an idea, George, just how bad the damage is out there. What are we talking about?
Well, it's hard to say. Your reporters have been out there. They get that information firsthand sometimes before even some of our deputies can get out there. So you really assist us in that way. But the major highways have come down. You're talking about the I-14, the 5. So there's some major functions, major highway functions that are able to get people out there to that area, and that's where our major focus is at this time. And we're still trying to establish what, in fact, has been damaged out there.
George, stay with us for a second. Let me describe the pictures we're seeing here. It's apparently a train derailment in the Northridge area. We understand at least 16 of these cars carried some sort of sulfuric acid earlier today. Do you know anything about this?
No, not at this time. Like I say, we are working in conjunction with LA City Police, LA City Fire, LA County Fire, and we are assisting them. Our Sheriff's Department is on a Phase 4, 12 and 12. The full department has been mobilized regarding this earthquake, so the whole department is assisting, and hopefully we can coordinate this thing and get response, get some folks out there to assist all the people that have been affected by this.
George, with the freeway situation as it is right now, the 10, the 5, the 4, and the 118, we're having problems with those. Are you having problems mobilizing any of your deputies as a result?
At this time, not that I know of. We have people out there trying to establish what in fact has been damaged. But yes, you're talking some major thoroughfares, major highways that are affected by this earthquake, and sure, everyone's going to be getting affected from this. But we do have deputies out there, and we're trying to establish what in fact has been damaged.
Okay, thank you very much, George, for being with us from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Emergency Center. Let's go now on the phone to Mike Moore from the DWP.
And one light, so that when the electricity is restored, there's not a huge surge and a resultant another blackout. That will help when power is restored. We're told probably by tonight to most areas. That's what's happening up here. Colleen and Chuck, back to you.
All right, Ken. We should talk a little bit before we go to Dr. Bruce Hensel about this live picture you're seeing right now. This is that shopping center out in the Northridge area where the Bullock store was. This is the parking structure, but the interesting thing is, and we've been kind of watching this off and on for the better part of an hour, you see some rescue workers on top of the parking structure. There's the camera. There they are. Right there's the camera. Now, they have been working in that area, as I said, for the better part of an hour, which would lead one to believe that they're looking for someone or something down there. I don't know if Captain Bob has any information on that at all that you could shed any light on this.
Chuck, yes, I can. They've actually been working up here for the past 3 hours. This three-story parking structure collapsed here in the Northridge Shopping Center with the initial shocks. And when we first came over, probably about 7, they were working then, trying to get down through the layers of concrete that have collapsed down upon themselves. So they obviously have some word, or maybe they are in voice contact. We haven't been able to confirm that with people that are trapped here. This is right off the Robinson's May building here in the Northridge Center, just about a quarter of a mile north of where you saw that train derailment. So this area took a really big hit from those from that jolt this morning. The best shopping building, the best store, which is just across the street from the Robinson May. Also, the back building of it, the back wall of it has collapsed outward towards that train derailment. This is the Northridge Shopping Center. And in the neighborhood immediately adjacent to the Northridge Shopping Center, there are 2 or 3 homes that have burned to the ground, probably, again, from the gas mains having broken. I'm looking up in the mountains. I see that you're showing us the seismocam. I'm looking up the mountains to see if I see dust coming off. I don't see that coming off in the magnitude that I saw during the previous aftershock, so possibly that was a lesser one if indeed we had one. You're looking at the Bullocks building in the shopping center. You can look right inside the interior of the building where it is just completely collapsed. Several floors inside resting on the ground floor now, and the outside of the building, of course, completely destroyed. The rest of the buildings here have some facade damage, like such as Sears, but I see no major structural damage from the air. Of course, oh, wait a minute, I take that back. That could be some major structural damage on the Sears also. It appears to be facade. But the 2 buildings that took the big hit here at the Northridge Shopping Center are the Bullocks, and then the parking structure immediately adjacent to Robinson's May, then across the street to the Best Store, and then that crumpled train that derailed on the tracks just back of the Best Store, with those cars that were supposedly filled with sulfuric acid that appear to have stopped the leak. They've got foam around the base of several of those, and City Fire is still monitoring that situation.
Diana here. Diana, is this the house that you lived in, your apartment?
Yeah.
Right there? And are these all the things now?
All my stuff is out here and I can't find my wallet.
Okay, all right. Can you describe for us what happened during the quake and how did you get out?
We got out through the balcony right here, and I didn't realize we were on the floor because we live on the 2nd floor, and I didn't.
You didn't even know it had collapsed?
Well, I felt it, a big thing, but I thought it was just a big jolt, and then I didn't realize, because I thought that the building would be able to withstand all that stuff, and I don't know. I looked up. My friend looked out the window, and she saw that we were on the floor, and so we got out.
So this is all your stuff now that they've brought out. Were you injured at all? You seem okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you know the people who lived underneath you?
No. We didn't live any, there was nobody underneath us because the entranceway is right here.
Right there. So directly underneath you there was nobody there?
Nobody there. But then, see, the building moved to the right a little bit, like 6 or 7 feet, and maybe underneath here, maybe there was somebody here, because this is the entranceway right here. And there was nothing underneath us.
Do you have any idea how many units were in this complex?
A lot. I don't know.
It looks large, yeah.
It's very big.
Yeah. Now, it also seems that there was a parking structure underneath part of it.
Yeah, over there was a whole bunch of cars were smushed and split open, and just everything just fell.
Was there panic when the earthquake hit? Were people screaming, crying, running, or what was the mood?
Actually, when we got out here, there wasn't many people out here. There was a lady out here. She was hurt, and her back, her furniture, something fell on her face, but there was a guy next door. I think he was on the 1st floor, but we heard him screaming for help, and he was underneath. Nobody would talk to him and listen to him, and we couldn't get out. We were under the desk.
All right. That's Diana, right? Yeah. All right, that's Diana. She's one of the residents here, one of the victims here. This is her apartment. Her stuff is all over here, and giving us a little idea of what happened. You know, it's interesting. She'd point out that underneath here was part of it was a parking structure, because that is consistently a problem in big earthquakes like this. I know in the San Francisco quake, many of the homes that collapsed were those that were built over parking structures because there's just not enough stability.
I'm still probably in a little shock. I mean, I couldn't have told you how long the earthquake lasted. I don't remember any. I mean, When it first happened, I got up because I had a little statue of a dancer I wanted to come and rescue. And as I came into the living room, that's when the front fell out and the ceiling fell down, and I heard somebody pounding on the door, "Let's get out."
And she did get out. We have some videotape to show you of what the inside of Marilyn Brady's apartment looked like. There it is. That is the front of the building that we just showed you from the ground. She was able to rescue. The reason she came out of her bedroom into the living room was to get a glass figurine that had a lot of special meaning for her. As she moved into the living room, that's when the walls blew out, and she literally is lucky that she did not go out the window with the bricks. And there you see it from the outside as we zoom out of the apartment building. Some 40 units here. Everybody worked together, got the older folks out without any serious injury. That is a story that has been repeated over and over again here in the city of Santa Monica. People helping each other out in the middle of the dark with flashlights, barefoot, but no serious injuries as far as we can tell, and no fatalities here in the city. Paul, Colleen?
Phil, it is amazing when you look at the pictures of the inside of her apartment that she was able to get out virtually unscathed.
Well, the good thing, if you can call it that, about this particular building is that the damage was to the front, and the inner staircases, which go down sort of the center hallways of these buildings, were largely intact, and that's what people used to get out. There's also back doors that weren't really affected by the amount of brick and rubble that you see here in the front. People were able to use those as well. And the owner of this building, I'm told by Marilyn, who works for him, is already planning to rebuild, has an architect scheduled to come out here tomorrow to begin the planning and the cost estimates. Of course, no earthquake insurance here.
Yeah, Phil, what is it, 20 or 25% of the people have earthquake insurance in Southern California? That's
very
about
small
it.
number, and it's very difficult in the commercial nature also.
All right, Phil Schuman, thank you. Stand by in Santa Monica. 4:31 in the morning yesterday is when this 6.6 quake hit. What was it like at that moment for you? What was it like at that moment? Where were you? What did it look like? We have some tape that we haven't even... This is right when it hit at 4:31. I don't think we have any sound on it, but you can sure see, there's the time, and you can sure see these people.
You had talked about what people were doing. I had assumed that most people were asleep at 4:31 in the morning, but apparently not.
Some people like to gamble a lot, and they stay up late and early in the morning to do it. 4:31. Just
in Santa Clarita.
Now, we don't know exactly how these vehicles were so badly mangled. Apparently, they came off the upper reaches of that overpass there, went off the edge, and then tumbled down there and slammed to the pavement below, a good 2 or 3 stories down below. We don't know what happened to the people who were inside of these cars.
You know, it was interesting that one fatality that happened at the collapse of the I-14 and the 5 was not because of the earthquake itself, but because of the law enforcement officer was driving and thought he could go onto the 5, and it wasn't there.
It was just gone, as so much of the Los Angeles region is this morning.
But thank God that the traffic was minimal at 4:30 in the morning.
At 4:30, had it happened at 7:30, as disastrous as this is, it would have been so far worse in terms of human loss.
When it happens in the
past the LAPD officers, here is the second car also totaled, and as we said, what they feared would happen is now starting to happen. One person killed. This man, the driver of this purple Ford, killed in this accident here caused by the traffic lights not being on and people not knowing what to do. The police officers tell us they are worried that this kind of thing will happen all over the San Fernando Valley because the lights are out everywhere. As we move out here right now, you can see that people are making their way through. They're seeing this accident, and it is causing them to be a little more careful because they see what can happen. As you can tell from this side of the car here now, a devastating hit on this, I think it is a Ford Taurus, a devastating hit. That hit was fatal to the driver of this car. The police are out here taking their right.
This is all that's left of the beautiful hillside home in Sherman Oaks, where 32-year-old Mark Yobbs and his fiancée, Karen Osterholt, were killed when their house collapsed on them after the quake hit early this morning. Both Mark and Karen worked in the entertainment industry. They were asleep in their bedroom, and the structure of the house may have contributed to their deaths. The bedroom underneath the main portion of the house, so everything collapsed onto them, killing them instantly, police believe. Neighbors tried to save them, but it was too late. Both Mark and Karen were totally trapped and crushed by the house. Actually, the couple's dog survived. The rescue efforts did manage to save the family dog.
Freight car across Tampa, not allowing traffic to go north or
We
south.
saw another collapsed building as you were panning across to the freight train there. It looked like it was in a
Yes, there's
strip mall or
another
something.
collapsed building. The facade has come down, and plus the front part of the roof. Right there in front of your screen, Dane. Just push right in, right there in that parking lot. We'll get the name of it off the front as he gets in closer with the West Cam.
Okay. All right.
Okay, you need to go off me.
You can't help but notice as we go through this area.
The warehouse records.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like the
Lens Crafters.
The lights are out as well. The traffic lights.
Oh yeah, the traffic lights are out here, and you can all up and down. But people are reacting real well to that. They're doing the four-way stop and letting the person on the right go first. I think
or not the aorta, which would be immediately fatal, or one of the smaller vessels or one of the bones is injured instead, in which case the person may very well
Okay, now
be
There we
saved.
go. It looks like they're out of the hole.
Yeah, we'll interrupt you for just a second. They're
It looks like they're moving
Taking
him. We
him?
can see
they are
from here.
moving him. They're bringing him towards you, Vicki. They're
This is-
bringing him across the center section of that collapsed parking structure.
And they have to be careful about that too, Bob, because
Yeah, I
it's
bet
not
they do.
real easy
And
terrain.
here, you've got a good picture of him now, much better than us.
Yeah, now at this point, one of the things you might want to notice is the person has the military anti-shock trousers in place. You see those rubberized garments with the orange straps on them wrapped around his legs and his abdomen. That's called the mass suit. It's there to both splint an area that may be fractured, to keep it from moving, and also to increase the blood pressure. Now, we used to think that happened because it threw the blood to the other parts of the body. That's probably not the case. It increases the blood pressure by changing the hormonal balance in the body and actually constricting blood vessels, and that may very well save the person's life.
Bruce, we're coming up on almost 9 hours he's been trapped down there. What condition do you expect him to be in?
Well, on the one hand, 9 hours with him still being alive and being what is apparently only mildly in shock, because he does not look completely unconscious to me.
Okay, let's go out to Vicki. Vicki?
We're getting a wonderful look at him. I see his neck brace like they said it would be. They need to stabilize him. They keep him steady. They're putting him on a gurney, getting ready to take him to that ambulance. We're being held back at this point.
Vicki, do you see any movement at all?
I can see that his arms are crossed over his chest, and they're not taped down. It doesn't look like they're concerned about that. A lot of applause.
To take this man over to whichever hospital. If in fact you folks want us to, we'll follow him to whichever hospital they do take him to, and take his picture getting out there so you'll know where he is.
This has been an amazing story from start to finish here. We've stayed with this all morning. If you're just joining us, you're just getting your electricity back on or something. This is a man who was trapped on the bottom floor of a 3-story parking structure since the quake hit at 4:30 this morning. Almost 9 full hours he sat in a sweeper, a street sweeper. His legs were crushed, we understand. Firefighters worked trying to remove tons of concrete.
Was there a last-minute movement of the concrete, anything that allowed you to get into him?
Just patience, having just the patience to work, and just it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of patience to remove all the layers of concrete one at a time.
Did he say anything when he finally came up?
No, he didn't. He was in a lot of pain, and we just got him to the hospital as soon as we can.
Tell me what it was like to be down there, to be watching all this time, wondering, waiting, not knowing if you're going to get him out.
Well, we knew we were going to get him out. It's just a matter of time. We take pride in our job, and we know we can do it, and we just know that we have the equipment and the manpower to do what we have to do to get the job done. And we got the job done.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3 4.
Vicki,
Well, there's a
where do
man
they go
who deserves
next?
a lot of congratulations.
Where do they go next? I mean, we've heard there were 6 apartment complexes or buildings that collapsed in the Northridge area. They've been working on this one since the quake hit this morning, almost since about 7 o'clock. Where do they go next? Do they head over to this other complex in Northridge?
I think
You know
she
what?
might be off
You're
mic,
offline.
but I'll tell you, that guy deserves a lot of credit. I don't know who he was, but I'll tell you. That was quite some job. And we've got Bob Petty, who happens to be following the helicopter. Remember, this is a man who was literally buried alive for 9 hours.
And came out alive.
It appears he's going to UCLA. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the air. Pardon me there.
Well, that's okay.
This is Bob Petty again from the helicopter. Getting out or being transported into for further treatment here. But yes, indeed, good news. And the helicopter
Bob, we
again
need to
saves
interrupt
lives.
here. Governor Wilson is stepping up to the microphone. Let's listen in.
That I was grateful that we had the City of Los Angeles Fire Department once again proving how good they are. Second, your impulse, quite understandably, is heartbreak for the people who have lost their homes. And our first concern is to prevent the loss of life. There's no way that words can express how you feel, what you say. There aren't any words that can comfort someone who has lost a loved one.
Let's break away and go to Bob Petty. Bob?
Yeah, this is Normandy in South Central, just south of Martin Luther King Boulevard, where we've got an apartment complex or 2 large single-family homes fully involved. Again, with no telling whether it's directly related to the quake, but as all of us know, the shock of the quake knocking about the gas lines can cause damage later, especially when we have these series of aftershocks later. This is about 2 blocks south of Martin Luther King Boulevard, right on Normandy. Let me get around to this side here. Maybe I was wrong about the 2. It appeared to be 2 as we came up. As you can see, it's a fairly large, older home that appears to have fire escapes on it, which means it's probably a multi-residences or multi-family residence inside that. But the front of it seems to be fully involved inside, although the smoke is white. The firefighters still have not totally ventilated the roof to be able to get the water inside, so it's not the total knockdown white that you see. It's still a boiling, burning white smoke from fire inside that building. About 2 blocks south of Martin Luther King Boulevard, probably a direct relation of either the quake or the aftershocks knocking about the gas pipes and then causing the fire later on in the afternoon, as we're seeing right here.
We've seen some amazing pictures today. Take a look at this firefighter as he's frantically trying to ventilate the roof there.
There you go.
Yeah, look at that man.
Get that smoke out. That'll allow the firefighters to get down underneath. There you go. They're going down underneath now, inside the front, when they saw that the smoke is coming out the various spots on the roof, because a lot of the smoke will raise up and allow them to go low inside that building and hopefully get some water on the base of the flames inside that. Again, it looks like a multi-family residence here in off of Normandy and South Central.
And I want to compliment Bob Petty. What he is doing, friends, is not easy. Flying in those conditions.
Oh, no, flying in these conditions is nothing. We're looking at the people that are working.
You're too modest. You're too modest.
Well, we don't have the high winds we had during the fires, nor do we have nighttime right now. So we're working with daytime conditions. We did have a little bit of a problem with flight restrictions being imposed that were really too prohibitive, but we've gotten around those since then. The real heroes, again, just like in the fires, are the people that are down in that smoke, in that heat, in that rubble, rescuing people, pulling people out, and doing the job that we're just here to cover.
Here's another problem, too. You see the bars on the doors where they were trying to break in to get into the apartment there.
Well, I think you'll find that prevalent in many parts of L.A., maybe more so down here in this part. It's a fairly good-looking house, at least the whole thing was. I'm sure the inside is good. You can see flame now coming out.
That man's exhausted there. He's rubbing his eyes.
Look how close he is to the flames. This is not just smoke there. These are flames coming out of the roof there.
Finally, flames coming out where he cut loose. Now he's back to work again, raising that axe to cut. Oops, no, he thinks he's going to sit down again. Yeah, that smoke got right in his eyes with some ash and is preventing him from standing right up in it. But he's got a good start on the ventilation of this fire. Now this is only about a half mile to the south and west of the Coliseum, to put it more perspective for everybody down here. And they've got water on the roof. You got fire coming out, flames coming out of the north side of the roof.
He doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah, this guy does not know when to stop. I mean, he could easily slide off the top of that roof very easily.
Well, that's why he's got that sharp pick on that axe for. If he starts to slide, he'll just turn around and jam it into the jam it into the top of the roof, just like an ice pick and ice climbers. Flames now coming out of the north side of the building, meaning more oxygen is getting in it, but also meaning that it allows the firefighters to be able to get water underneath and inside the house, hopefully saving the back part of this house, but the front is going to take some major smoke, water, and fire damage down here in Normandy and Martin Luther King.
Bob, as you listen to air traffic there, have you heard any discussion as to what touched this one off?
I'm sorry, what else?
I said, have you heard any discussion on the air traffic monitors there as to what started this one?
Oh, this fire? No, we have not. And it may be a real deep assumption, but we're assuming that most of the fires, most of these will be caused by the aftershocks, the initial shock loosening the gas lines, and then these aftershocks, or maybe just, now you got flame erupting through this
Look at
side.
that.
Now that's right where that firefighter was.
What did he do? Did he go down the other side?
Well, I'm sure he came down this side towards this ladder. I can't see up in the smoke, but we were around the other side when that happened. You can see the ladder going up through the gables there, coming down. I'm sure he slid down to safety. And if you notice, as soon as those flames erupted through the roof, the firefighters poured water into the opening to quell it and put the heat down so it wouldn't spread any more than it is going to spread. But as I get back to that cause of this fire, I think we have to assume until someone else proves otherwise that most of the fires that are happening like this will be caused by the shock and the aftershocks loosening the gas lines or some other sort of damage in the home to cause these flames.
Bob, you mentioned two key words here, aftershocks and weakening. We've seen that with so many things around the area today. We've had several strong aftershocks. We've had at least 3 major ones measuring 5.0 or more. What happens when we see that, as you said, the gas main in some cases is weakened, the water main, the freeway structures, parking garages, houses, large buildings, tall buildings.
And people's nerves.
Absolutely on that as well. So with each aftershock, you sort of need to reassess the area where you are.
Absolutely. You've got to look around you. You've got to keep your nose open for those gas smells. You've got to be aware that each aftershock could bring new danger to both you and your family. So once you get into the house after that initial shock and relax a little bit, go around, check it every now and then. Check those gas mains. Maybe it's not such a bad idea to keep the gas turned off if you smell gas anywhere in the neighborhood, just to make sure it's not your house. And when you do turn it on, go around and check those outlets. So check those pipes coming in, those appliances that do use gas, and make sure they're not have not started leaking in the interim through all the aftershocks.
Now it appears we have a lot of smoke, a lot of white smoke, which is a good sign.
You mentioned jangled nerves there, Bob. The county is taking that into account. LA County has started.
I can't hear you right now.
They've started a mental health line. It should be up and running at about 3 o'clock our time this afternoon for people who've gone through the earthquake and the aftershocks, who need to talk to someone, who needs some professional counseling. The phone number is a toll-free number, 1-800-854-7771. Again, the telephone number, 1-800-854-7771. And that's the county mental health line. There'll be professionals at the other end who will be able to talk with you about the earthquake and maybe settle your nerves just a little bit.
One of the...
Looking over it looks like an Italian garden that's gone amok.
Yeah, there was a tower here about 16 feet tall, and it just crushed down. There's nothing left of it. This whole wall right here just came down and crushed the truck. There's a big 4x4 truck behind there.
How old is this house?
About 75 years old.
It looks like it was one of those special quaint houses you would have purchased because you thought it had so much character.
Yeah, it was designed by an Austrian, and it's got brick walls lined with rock, and it just crumbled.
All of those nice old features when you looked up at the roof.
You couldn't see it at first because it was dark in the morning, but once the sun came up, we could see how bad it was.
Looks like the rope.
What is this? Okay, I am told that this is the alternate route. This is the old route around I-5, and as you can see, nobody's going anywhere on that road.
It's been backed up like that since early this morning. While we look at this picture here, let me just reiterate something that may have gotten lost in the shuffle here a few minutes ago. Southern California Edison is advising all of its customers to turn off all power except for a refrigerator and one light.
Right where La Cienega crosses underneath the 10 freeway, the Santa Monica freeway down here, And the CHP cruiser tried to make it over, it appears, at least a 5-foot break in the freeway where the freeway has sagged right directly over La Cienega and raised the western end of it at least 5 feet, like a waterfall or a ledge should water be flowing down the freeway. And you can see the results of it. The CHP cruiser is stuck with his nose down on the lower part and his rear wheels back up in the upper wheel up, and probably a chagrined feeling on the part of the trooper who went over that ledge, probably not realizing it was quite that deep, thinking that he could make it over into the westbound, continue westbound. But had he continued westbound, he could have gotten off on an exit or another access road or another exit, but he couldn't have continued any further west on the freeway because there's a complete break in the freeway westbound Santa Monica directly over Venice Boulevard, and where it's collapsed on top of a mini mall or some sort of structure down beneath, built beneath the freeway itself. Again, the CHP cruiser is stuck. It doesn't appear that there were any injuries. The door's open. We see no evidence of any ambulance. As I said, he's probably sitting over there kicking himself or trying to go over.
Picture there.
The reason I mentioned Bob Petty is because when that happens from the air, he just sees smoke going up all over the place.
You can see, we talked about this one being longer. Take a look on the seismocam. You can see the short ink spots to the left of your screen on the right-hand side. Those are all aftershocks, but you see how long and how sustained this one was that we just felt. And just as you see, it's beginning to taper off.
The problem was that they didn't have any information.
Okay, I believe I hear Conan Nolan in the background there.
Is that who
Logically, we would want to go out to Caltech to see if they have any kind of reading on this one so far. Conan, do you hear us?
Yes, I certainly do, Colleen. For the moment, I do. There you're back. No, right now they don't know the size of that aftershock. They're trying to get information to us immediately about it. That's one of many, many large aftershocks they've had. As of this time, we understand that there are 2 aftershocks at magnitude 5 since the earthquake at 4:30 this morning. 7 aftershocks at magnitude 4.0
It was delayed because of internal controversy.
And 26 aftershocks of magnitude 3.0 or larger. That has been upgraded. There are many more than that since this was released, and this was about just about 45 minutes ago.
No.
I have to tell you that right now they are trying to figure out
right. In the 88 report, all we talked about was the San Andreas Fault and its major tributaries, the San Jacinto in Southern California and the Hayward Calaveras, or the Hayward Fault in Northern California.
Most, if not
the
all,
new probabilities
of the
report,
major
what we call the Landers Phase 2 report,
Northridge.
the Southern California Earthquake Center Phase 2 report, deals with all the faults that we know about. It talks about it. We deal with the geodetic strain rates,
below the surface,
we deal with the amount of strain occurring in any particular box.
In a
There's
northerly
50 boxes.
direction.
We take into account the strain rate, we take into account what we know about the faults and how fast the faults are slipping, and we try to produce an integrated hazard map for Southern California.
We'll get back to you.
Here at the corner of Sherman Way and Balboa, where a gas station has just opened up an hour ago, and it is bedlam here as people are trying to get in to get gas. If you look back there, all of the traffic waiting for gasoline, backing up traffic on Sherman Way. All these people waiting to get in, and that's not the worst of it. Lou, come on over here. Are you waiting for gas?
No, for the air.
Air in your tires? And how long have you been waiting? 10 minutes out here in the intersection, really? Thanks. Let's go back over here, Lou, and we'll show all of these people here on this side. And if you look over there, there are 3 or 4, 5 lines of people. They've been waiting as long as a half hour, 45 minutes for gasoline. When you see those movies, they talk about what it would be like with an earthquake in Los Angeles, people trying to get gas. Well, maybe this is what it's like. You've got your little girl in there asleep, totally asleep. I'm sure she hasn't had any sleep, and you're waiting. How long have you been here?
Probably about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
You're waiting for gas?
Yep.
Yeah. I have to ask you something. When we woke up this morning, we realized we really were not prepared. How about you?
We were, but everything got damaged in that process. Everything that we had preparations for.
Got damaged?
Yep.
So you were left empty-handed, and now you need gas, huh?
That's right.
Behind me here was a triple wide mobile home, and if you can just imagine that, the entire span there was what was their home. And now look at this. Let me show you some videotape, some exclusive videotape that we got, some of our crews got early this morning of what it looked like. Here's the videotape of what it looked like. After the very sharp jolt hit, and the people here were awakened by that sharp jolt. They came outside only to find that some gas mains had broken, and the fire was starting to really eat up some of the homes in this area. There are a total of 315 mobile homes in this park. All but one actually fell off of their foundations, as you can see in the yellow house that we're pointing to now. But a total of, I think it's 15 now that have been counted that were entirely engulfed in flames and that were destroyed by those gas mains that broke. So it really was a very devastating thing. A lot of the people who lost their homes here lost really what amounts to their life savings. Reporting live, Luis Patiño, back to you.
All right, thank you very much for that report, Luis. We are going
the 118 freeway. We're heading eastbound, and you know, obviously we didn't feel the aftershock up here, but we knew it happened because immediately in the hills dust started to kick up, and now you can see that the entire Simi Valley area is just full of dust. And all of this just from that aftershock, the 5.5.
Dramatically. Another good point in favor of this not being a foreshock is that this was a thrust fault earthquake. One block moved up and over another. And in those types of earthquakes, you generally get much fewer foreshocks.
Conan, if we can interrupt you for just a moment, and let's get the latest on this house fire out in the Northridge area. Bob Petty is over the scene. Bob?
Chuck, this is on the Tunney Avenue, just north of the Northridge Fashion Mall, located, maybe a half a mile north. Just one of those sporadic fires that is happening after aftershocks hit us. And if you notice, just right after that last aftershock, we looked out on the horizon and we saw this smoke starting to rise up. Now, when you first folks tried to come to me, the LA City Fire was not on the scene. They have since come in with 2 engines and are trying to get water on it. Again, this is a wood shake roof, Tunney Avenue in Northridge, about a half mile north of the Northridge Fashion Mall that we've been so concerned with all day.
Here, an LAPD officer, a motor officer who was on his motorcycle and literally ran out of freeway. He was on the Antelope Valley Freeway 14 southbound, suddenly collapsed. There was no freeway left for him to travel. He died here at the scene. There were several other significant injuries here. Some of those injured individuals were forced to be rescued and airlifted from the scene here. So once again, we have talked with Caltrans officials. They tell us that it will be quite some long while before this major junction north of the San Fernando Valley becomes once again what it was before the earthquake. I would say a good 100-yard section of 14 southbound has collapsed. Out of the view of our camera range at the moment, another section of 14, the northbound section to take you on 5 north, that too has collapsed. So there's a lot of work here for Caltrans to do. Caltrans officials have been here attempting to assess the damage at this point. They are telling us a bare minimum of 3 months before much of this is reopened. 3 months, and that would be around the clock, 24-hour working at this particular junction. So once again, the San Fernando Valley and parts north are virtually shut down because of this collapsed section of freeway. I'm Fernell Chapman reporting live from the intersection of 14 and I-5 north of the San Fernando Valley. Okay. Now back to the studio.
I tell you what, I had a question for Fernell, but we'll skip that and let's go back up to Bob Petty, who's live over this gas leak again.
Yeah, Chuck, this is just north of the 118 on Balboa, north of Rinaldi, even between Rinaldi and Lorillard. And if you're looking at this, you can see the massive hole north of the flames. That actually comes from a water main break that undermined the road, and that apparently happened at the same time as the gas main break that is still burning now.
Their ergonomies just after the Christmas break, and they really don't have a tally on everybody who was living there.
Let's try again and see if we have Jim. Jim, can you hear us now?
There's a couple new developments out here at Northridge. First of all, you can see in the foreground this firefighter who just brought out a couple of pets, very frightened cats who've been in there. Also in the background, you can see
You're looking at the scene inside of a Ralph's supermarket in Panorama City. We're on Van Nuys Boulevard, just a little bit north of Roscoe. This is in the heart of the San Fernando Valley, northeast San Fernando Valley, one of the areas hardest hit. And right now people are in line making a rush on the supermarkets. Ma'am, water, flashlights?
I don't know what to say. I just moved here from Philadelphia, but I've been here only for 2 months, okay? So this is like...
First earthquake?
Exactly.
Panicking?
Yes.
Thank you. What about your experience, sir? How long did you have to wait to get into this store, and what's it been like for you?
Since about 1 o'clock, and this is my first experience.
You've been waiting since 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, this store didn't open up until 4 o'clock, and so it was quite a wait for many people. The line stretched the entire distance of the store. Supplies, bread, water, what else do you think you need during this time?
Well, this is all for now.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Some other folks, what about you? Tough experience this morning?
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, I came out here from Tennessee, and I ain't used to this. Strange.
Okay. We'll take another quick look around and show you the kinds of lines that we have in the supermarket. Literally hundreds of people now in the checkout area. The thing that we see, of course, the most is the bottled water, partially because the DWP says you must either boil it or drink it out of the bottle right now, and so that is a very popular item. In addition, a lot of canned foods are going out, batteries, flashlights, any other supplies that you might think of in an emergency situation, and those are the things that people seem to be stocking up on right now.
We're live with Captain Bob over the Santa Clarita area, and you can certainly see some of the damage we talked about today. This is a water main break in that area. Captain Bob, do you hear us?
I do. I hear you, Colleen. I'm not sure that we've got a water main break. These appear to be valves, so if they have been opened on purpose, we'll have to determine why they were opened on purpose. If in fact the valves have broken and are spewing the water, then indeed it is a break. But it doesn't look like the classic break of rupture that we first had reported to us. Again, this is just about a half a mile to the east of the Saugus Speedway out here in Canyon Country, just to the north of Sierra Highway. So maybe some of our assignment desk people can check and see if this is being done on purpose to alleviate pressure on the pipeline for repairs down the line or whatever. But it's dumping into the Santa Clarita River. Obviously no harm to the environment as it goes downriver, but they appear to be coming from 3 different valves at this location just east of the Saugus Speedway. So apparently not a break, but we'll have to confirm that for later. This is Bob Petty reporting live from the Channel 4 helicopter over Saugus. Back to you in the studio.
Bob will get pictures and mirrors.
Well, I mean, they better. That house is a total loss. Yes. When you just look at it, and its proximity to the cliff. It's part of it's already gone.
And as you suggested, Jennifer,
look at that.
Maybe there is some movement that we can't detect that lets them know that that may not be there long.
Right. It didn't seem as though they were actually acting so frantic before when we were over this. Perhaps they were, but we didn't notice it to this degree. And as you can see, they literally are running in and out of the house now.
Now, general
people, and I said, any structural damage to your house? And they say, no, it's just basically a mess. Everything is thrown around, and they're afraid that something might happen. So to play it safe, they've come out here to Quimby Park, and they put up their tents and put down the blankets and brought the backyard chairs, and they're sitting around talking. Some playing basketball, of course, some playing soccer, and it's a very relaxed family feeling here.
This is south of the 101, and then just north of that, there's a pocket, basically a blanket of a couple blocks that is not lit at this time, and then north of the 101, I do see lights. So again, it's happening in pockets where the lights are coming back on. If we were to pan over a little bit to the next block, you would not see any lights just west of Woodman.
Okay.
So it's occurring in various. We might be able to give you just a wide shot. You probably can't tell from the camera, but as I look out, there's just a couple of blocks where it's darkened, and then the lights have come back on for a couple of blocks, and then off for another.
That way. Put it in. Okay. Okay, pull up. Watch out, guys. Oh, wait. Don't start going back there, you guys.
And we're back here live in Sylmar now. The fire crews have all left. And most
down here, you can see right there, that was the garage area. There are several crushed vehicles there. This was a good 6 feet off the ground. As you can see, it's down on the ground now. Several vehicles. I can see a Mazda in there. I can see an American Camaro in there. This is unbelievable. But once again, everyone in this building got out safely. People got out alive. They did because of their friends and neighbors who came with ladders, helping one another down off of this building. And people were literally hanging off the balcony. But
anything left here, you know, between the two mobile home parks here in Sylmar, at least 70 homes were lost. And now residents are trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. Fire ripped through the Tahitian mobile home park shortly after this morning's quake. Frightened residents shook with fear as they saw more than 30 homes go up in flames.
Everything I got in there.
The earthquake had ruptured gas lines, setting off small explosions. Afterwards, this twisted metal was all that remained. Bill Rustick lost everything.
Maybe about a half hour at the most to 20 minutes or something to get stuff out of the house and get out of here. And so that's what we did. Get as much stuff as we out and get the kids out in the street safe, you know, and we lost everything, most of the stuff materially, but you know, we got away with a lot of it, so.
The quake caused several other fires all over the San Fernando Valley. These huge flames took 3 houses in the city of San Fernando. Again, gas lines broke. And just a few miles from the first mobile home park, there were several other small fires at the Oakridge Mobile Home Park, also in Sylmar. Residents all tried to help one another.
And then I went down and got the Evans, make sure they were okay, and then went down to everybody's, turned their gas and their water off.
By mid-afternoon, residents were allowed to go back in to get a few belongings. Many searched in vain for something to take away.
I'd lost my whole life. Everything was in there, all my mom's china, all of her silver, everything, because it was her house. I was just staying here with my roommate, and we lost everything.
If we can get her signal working. Tracy, you there?
Yes, I am, Pat, and this fire is still burning out of control. I have a couple of the firefighters, one here who was working on this fire. Tell me the situation.
Oh, excuse me.
We're going to have to back up here. The fire crews are moving away from this fire. You can see the flames. If we look off to the right, they are really burning hot. They tell me that this building has slid several feet off its foundation, sliding down the hill. And the fear is, of course, if another big one hits, the whole thing will go down the hill. We've watched residents moving large pieces of furniture and clothing out of some of the units here behind us for fear that this fire, if it continues in the direction that it's moving, it's going to just burn this entire building to the ground. Now, I have this
smoldering from this morning.
Okay, I have this firefighter here with me now again. You say it's been smoldering all day long?
Quite possibly smoldering since this morning. And all that's happened is, as the day wore on, the fire just kicked up inside the building. It's hard for us to make an interior attack on this thing because you can see there's so much structural collapse on this. So that's why we're fighting the fire from the outside.
And there was no way you could get to it when it was smoldering earlier because I understand it was down under the building itself?
Quite possibly, but we had no way to so many calls today for different types of
Is that fire? Tracy, you're still there?
No, we've lost the signal, Jerry.
Makes you wonder what...
If you do check and see if you can isolate that leak down to a given appliance, and if that's the case, turn off the valve at the gas line and back of the appliance. Otherwise, if you can't narrow it down, there's still the pervasive odor of gas. Shut off the meter by turning the valve on the crosswise with the pipe at the meter. But once you've done that, we urge customers not to try to restore service themselves. They can call us, and there's an 800 number they can call. That's 1-800-427-2200, or they can find our local number in the white pages or on their bills. We also wanted customers to know that we're waiving bills for any of them whose residences are uninhabitable because of damage caused by today's major quake. And
neighbors' swimming pools and going to empty it and another neighbor's swimming pool, which is down the hill from us, to try to put the fire out.
Neighbors tried to help, but in the end, they could only sympathize.
And they've come from around the adjacent area here, within a 3-block radius.
What are you thinking as you see this house, which is so close to yours, going up in flames?
There for the grace of God go I.
At the same time, about a mile away, there was this, a huge commercial fire along Ventura Boulevard. The building contained several small businesses, as well as a restaurant and a camera supply store. This quake fire wiped them all out.
Like everyone else, we all stand here and go, well, I'm in one piece. This is all material. We can build it again, and we go from there.
This was the nightmare scene along Wolfskill Street in the city of San Fernando. A gas line broke, sending flames running down the entire block. 4 homes and 9 cars were destroyed.
The whole street was covered with flames. So and there's nothing they can do because there's too many fires that are out there.
And from fire to water, a break in a 13-foot aqueduct pipe in Granada Hills flooded the DWP's massive Rinaldi receiving station. And the force of the quake itself simply sheared these steel switching racks. The combination knocked off power to 1/3 of all Los Angeles customers.
San Francisco in April of 1906, a monster earthquake, an estimated 8.3 on the Richter scale, kills at least 700 people. The city's downtown burns to the ground. Emergency officials estimate a quake like that in today's Los Angeles would kill as many as 14,000 people and cause hundreds of billions of dollars damage. In fact, they're preparing for the big one, as they call it, 8.0 or more, because scientists say it will surely come someday. Before today, the quake that most Southern Californians remember was also in the San Fernando Valley almost 23 years ago. It was bad enough, 6.5 on the Richter scale, and 65 people died in it. That was a learning experience for Californians, and so was this, the quake in Long Beach, just southeast of Los Angeles, in March of 1933. 6.3 on the Richter scale. It killed 115 people. Ever since, California's cities have been trying to make themselves earthquake safe. There was another reminder of how much is left to do in October of 1989. 63 people were killed when San Francisco and the Bay Area were hit by a 7.1 earthquake. Bridges and freeways collapsed and whole neighborhoods burned. It was evidence, if that was needed, that despite all the effort to make California earthquake safe, there's no way to make it earthquake proof. One of the few things that Los Angeles can be grateful for is that today's quake, as awful as it was not the big one. Scientists say they have no way of knowing whether today's earthquake brought the big one any closer or postponed the inevitable day that it will come. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
These 2 Valley residents are about to get the shock of their lives. Our cameras were rolling as they saw the Santa Monica freeway devastation for the first time.
I could never imagine the freeway hanging on the ground. It's amazing.
Can you imagine driving on the freeway? Well, is this
I remember the San Francisco one.
Here, isn't it?
I couldn't even imagine what it would be like.
Coming down?
No, it's not a down. This is the freeway that goes straight across. It just came down.
God.
So this part...
It's just broken. Hanging down onto the ground.
2 major freeway bridges came down in the quake, at Fairfax in Washington and at Venice in La Cienega. Though many drivers were caught in the middle of this disaster, miraculously none was killed. Though only a mile-long stretch was damaged, it will cause a major traffic disruption on the Southland's busiest freeway. As a result, this afternoon, city and state engineers began mapping out a detour plan. A plan that will be drawn up by the same people who organized the '84 Olympic traffic plan.
Right now, Caltrans is figuring out what parts of the freeway are safe and what parts are not, and then we're going to put a detour together on the surface streets so that we can connect the safe parts and get the freeway reopened with a detour down onto the surface streets and back up onto the freeway.
Ironically, the 10 was scheduled for a steel retrofitting next month, a process that would have strengthened the huge concrete supporting beams that came down in today's quake.
La Cienega will be closed at the Santa Monica Freeway, as well as Fairfax and Venice. They're all damaged at that point, and so none of those 3 streets at the Santa Monica Freeway will be open tomorrow.
Untold number of people. Timing was everything. An entire floor of this Northridge apartment building disappeared during the first aftershock. Fortunately, the initial jolt was so bad and upsetting, everyone had safely evacuated the building.
You had a sharp jolt, and I tried to get out of bed, and it kept knocking me back into my bed. And then I grabbed my son in the bedroom right over here, and my wife grabbed my other 2 girls, and we came out towards the living room, and then I went to the front door, and I had a hard time opening up that. People work all their lives to get stuff. And it's so hard, and you have something like this, and it just sets people back.
This furniture store recently had its grand opening. Now its future is unclear. Do you have an earthquake insurance?
No, we don't.
Do you have the money to fix it up?
I don't know what to do now with it.
There's an aftershock right there. Oh my gosh. This 5.5 aftershock underscores the uncertainty to come. This store was trashed by the earthquake, and as you're looking at what happened in the aisles, remember, this is a 24-hour Ralph's. There were 12 employees inside the store when the earthquake hit, when things fell from the shelves, glasses shattered on the ground, pieces of roof fell to the ground. Miraculously, no one suffered any injuries, not even a scratch.
We thought the building was going to go down. I mean, it was that hard of a jolt that we didn't think we were going to make it. It was really bad.
Huh? It was, the whole store was rocking. The lights went out and it was over. Everybody was holding on to each other saying, stay down.
As the curious roamed the streets, scores of scared residents sought refuge in Reseda Park.
I'm scared to go back home.
How long are you going to stay?
I'm going to spend the night here.
And you'd rather spend the night in a park than at your home because?
Because it's dark.
So you don't mind spending the night in the park, huh?
I'm so scared.
Yeah. Because when I was in bed, a picture fell down on me and it cut me right here.
It cut you?
Yeah, glass.
You okay?
Yeah.
So you don't mind spending the night in the park tonight, do you?
Nah, I don't mind.
Santa Monica was hard hit. Almost every business in that community was slammed by the quake. Some car dealership showrooms along Automobile Row on Santa Monica Boulevard were destroyed. So were many apartment buildings, like this one. A leaking gas line exploded. It was a miracle no one was killed. How did you get out before the explosion?
Oh, we didn't. It exploded and we were in there. And then the apartment was just engulfed in flames, so we just made our way to the front door, and I didn't think we were going to be able to get out. Really that didn't. I don't know, Mommy. I don't.
Older brick and stucco structures crumbled, like this one, along the Pacific Coast Highway.
After all this happened is when I got out. My bed is under that pile right there. My bed is under that pile. There's another doorway like this over here. When the earthquake hit, I jumped out of bed, tried to get out the front door. I couldn't. I ran back under the doorway like they tell you to do. And quite honestly, that's what saved my life.
There was some major damage north of Santa Monica along the Pacific Coast Highway, where hillsides like this one just literally slid away with houses on them.
Okay, come on back, come on back, come on.
Tons of rocks slid down hillsides. St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica had to evacuate seriously ill patients. Some of them were in intensive care. The hospital did it because it lost power, and it also suffered serious structural damage. Its emergency room stayed open. How did you injure your leg?
I actually fell down a flight of stairs.
Early in the day, I saw this crowd gathering in front of this bakery and coffee shop. These shaken residents, who evacuated their homes and apartments, were here for morning coffee and cake, and the shop happily sold it to them. It was one of the few businesses in Santa Monica that made any money on the day of the big quake. David Horowitz, Channel 2.
Room and Kelly Line.
All right, Chuck, we've just received the Bulldog edition of the Los Angeles Times. This is tomorrow's paper. 25 die, many hurt in 6.6 earthquake. And the front section is, of course, largely about our Los Angeles earthquake. Then moving on to the Metro section, you've got coping with the quake, and it tells you how. Lots of good tips throughout the whole Metro section. Even on the sports, in the sports section, shockwaves reach beyond the Southland, and you've got how this impacts on sports. And then also in tomorrow's Times, you're going to get the business section, of course, tremors through the economy, with the lead story talking about how losses could exceed the Loma Prieta earthquake. So that's the LA Times Bulldog edition. You'll get it in the morning. We have no newspaper delivery appears to be intact, and this is what you'll see. 25 die and many more hurt in 6.6 quake. Back to you, Colleen and Chuck.
All right, thank you.
It's been a very, very long day here at Caltech as the seismologists here are wrapping things up for the time being. It appears that they have come to a decision on exactly where the fault is where this earthquake took place. Now, Earlier today, they were so quick at getting the magnitude of the main shock that it even made the morning newspaper, 6.6 on the Richter scale. Of course, tracking all of the aftershocks, that was a major chore. We're told that there have been 88 aftershocks above 3.0 on the Richter scale, plotting them, almost all of them, north of Northridge. Those aftershocks, at least three, I should say, were of 5.0 on the Richter scale, and one as heavy as 5.3, and there were quite a few others. This is a normal aftershock pattern, they tell us, but still people should be alerted to the fact that more aftershocks are on the way, and there's still a likelihood of a very significant aftershock, possibly 5.0. Should point out that the earthquake fault apparently is the Oakridge Fault. We're told that it begins somewhere in the San Gabriel Mountains near San Fernando, makes its way 70 miles all the way over to the Santa Barbara Channel. Again, it is a 70-mile long fault. However, they only believe that 10 miles of that fault actually ruptured.
But as we leave you tonight with a special report on the Great Quake of '94, we want to share with you the sights and sounds of this very, very long day in Southern California.
Back now at 7:47, there's been an earthquake in Southern California this morning in the Los Angeles area. We go on out to Burbank, and our producer there, Rick Romo. Ricky, what can you tell us?
Hey, Brian. Well, man, talk about a rude awakening out here. The strongest earthquake, and I've lived here all my life, it just kept punching.
This is a quake felt over a wide-ranging area, felt in Santa Barbara and Las Vegas to the north, Bakersfield to the east, and San Diego to the south.
We have a 15-inch high-pressure feeder gas line. It's ruptured, and that's where these flames you see coming here, 50, 60, 70 feet in the air coming from. Okay, gas company's been notified, but I'm sure they got their hands full.
Right now, the Santa Monica freeway is closed in both directions, east and westbound. It's going to be eastbound from the 405 freeway to La Brea and westbound from La Brea to the 405 freeway.
Hey, watch out for the, make sure there's no nails. There's there's gonna step on. Watch out for the nails. Everybody got them? Watch out for glass.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay.
Okay, here, come here.
Get a blanket, out here.
Sit down, okay?
Break, get over here.
Siéntate, tío. Okay.
Get a jacket, a blanket on.
Due to the earthquake in the area you are calling, your call cannot be completed at this time. Please try your call later.
Put this up over your head. Watch above your head. Put this over here. Above your head, dog. There's no response. You've got the whole load now.
Now this is a 3-level parking structure immediately adjacent to the Robinson's May in the Northridge Shopping Center that has just collapsed completely upon itself, several floors of concrete coming down. Now the man or woman the trapped person could be in a vehicle.
As soon as the earthquake stopped, I came and checked up on my mom and dad. And then we saw a fire starting in the back building, so I got them all out. We're all on the street, and all of a sudden explosions started going on. They went right into my mom's house, and everything started burning down. Everything is burnt.
It felt like a big giant just grabbed the building and just tossed it around. I was sitting up watching the news, the early morning news, and it felt like a big giant was just tossing the whole room around. I was scared. I didn't realize what was happening at first. So when I did realize what happened, I jumped between the mattress and the box spring.
When the freeway suddenly disappeared in front of him, he careened off the freeway. He was assisted by several motorists, passers-by who attempted to help him, but all of that regrettably proved futile.
Take it. Yeah,
Keep those empties coming!
Get the handful out.
I have a very, very, very large armoire in the bedroom. Very large. It's about 7 foot high, very big and very heavy. Next thing I knew, it landed on my head. And I'm waiting now for stitches.
We're fine. Everybody is fine. Don't worry about us. We're okay.
What's your name?
Okay, Buzz Carmen, Bill Carmen. The Carmens are okay in California. We're fine. Don't worry. We're okay.
Because it occurred in a densely populated area, it was an unusually destructive one. We've all seen today on our own televisions the buildings that have collapsed, the freeways turned into rubble, the power has been cut off, that gas mains have exploded, and most tragically, many people have been injured and several lives have already been lost. Due to the damage caused by the earthquake, I have, by signing the document that I will sign at the end of this statement, declared these areas of California to be a major disaster.
But again, all the major fires put out. That apartment building, the Northridge Meadows apartment, is the worst scene of residences we've seen so far as trapped people. But we've got multiple homes up in the Sylmar area, mobile homes destroyed. I would say 30 to 40 homes destroyed up in the Sylmar area. And we've seen sporadic homes that, of course, their gas mains broke and caught on fire. And when that initial shock hits, the earthquake hits, you break those gas lines, and they cause those initial fires.
This has been an NBC News special report.
Like you're correct, 3 or 4 story office building on Ventura Boulevard, fully involved in flame. Flame were leaping out of the roof with firefighters pouring water on it. But this is a major, major fire here on Ventura Boulevard. A good.
You know, Bob?
Yes.
We understand this is a building that did sustain some quake damage yesterday, and as you come around the side, I'm wondering if it's one of the same buildings that Phil Showman showed us pictures of yesterday. He went up and down Ventura Boulevard and showed us, I believe it was a realty building. A realty company was housed in that building. In any case, we do know it's a 3-story commercial office building that happened to be vacant today. Or actually, we see a lease sign on the side.
Okay, it is for lease. Chuck, you are absolutely correct. I take back anything I said. It's an empty office building. It's probably for lease, but let's hope it was empty today and not being used. But if it did sustain quake damage earlier, it would have probably been evacuated or not used for anything, even if some of the offices in it were still for lease.
And right now,
the massive job begins. A giant crane dismantles the collapsed Santa Monica freeway. It's a sign of the power of the earthquake. But on this, the day after, it's also a sign that recovery is well underway. Good evening, everybody. It's
inside Thelma Mahaffey's kitchen now, and one of the mainstays here is bottled water, because as the case all over the valley, there's no water at all. In fact, Thelma, what happens when you do turn it on? What have you been getting?
When I turn the water on, I get just a little bit of a dribble. And we did try to take a shower with that this morning. It was quite interesting.
So it's not working very well at all.
No.
And you're not supposed to drink it anyway.
No, we can't drink it. We tried to boil some water, but it turned out very brown. We couldn't stand it.
Okay.
We couldn't stand the looks of it to even drink it.
Now, what about the electricity? You got 95,000 people, I guess, here in the valley.
Yes,
no
we do.
It's not working at all.
I turn my switch and I just see absolutely nothing.
The rescue team spent nearly 12 hours all night searching through the rubble of this devastated apartment building in Northridge. This is tremendously dangerous work because more than 100 aftershocks were rumbling through the area all night, each one threatening to collapse the building further on top of these search and rescue teams. 3 search and rescue dogs help the people locate the final 2 victims. These Swiss trained dogs are taught to search for living victims in the rubble, and of course, they are able to ferret out dead bodies. That's what happened this morning. These dogs leading rescue workers through the rubble to a victim. How do they actually do it?
If we can't go in, the dogs will go in for us. And we send them in, and we just let them do a search. And a lot of times, they'll search around, find voids, and they'll climb into the voids where we can't go. and then if they find somebody, if they're alive, they'll start barking. On dead victims, they don't alert the same way. It's more of a passive alert.
In addition to dogs, the search and rescue team from Riverside was using cameras to ferret out pictures from inside the collapsed apartment complex. This gear being used all night until finally the victims were found.
The cameras can go into locations that people can't get into. If we suspect that there's somebody in a void underneath us or beside us or something, we can drill a hole that's about 3 inches in diameter with some of our equipment and put the camera into that hole. And the camera can turn 180 degrees around, and it can move in any direction, and it has a monitor that the operator wears, and he can actually take a visual look inside of a place that you couldn't get a human head in to look.
Actually, the 16th victim, a man, was found dead on the first floor of this collapsed apartment house about 6:55 this morning. He was discovered with help from the dogs and the high-tech cameras. Rescue workers say this man was probably killed instantly when the apartment above him collapsed down right on top of him. The dogs played a key role in finding this man in the middle of all the debris.
So the dogs led you to the dead body? That's right. And when they went back and dug, that's when they found him.
Yesterday's earthquake left Northridge, California in shambles. It was clear that at the epicenter, the quake had roared through this quiet suburban community, leaving death and destruction in its wake. And it was here that one of the quake's most incredible stories of rescue and survival took place. Just before the quake struck, while most of the residents of Northridge were fast asleep, 23-year-old Salvador Pena was hard at work, operating a vacuum sweeper truck in this parking structure. Then the quake hit. The ground underneath him gave way, and the 20 tons of concrete above him collapsed. Salvador found himself penned inside his truck beneath 2 concrete support beams. At about 5:30 a.m., security guards checking the grounds heard cries for help and sent firefighters to the scene.
He's on the bottom floor. There's 2 floors above him. Okay, so he's got 3 layers on top of him.
But as the sun rose and the hours passed, the hopes that Pena would survive began to dim. And the aftershocks that came in quick successions only made the rescue even more dangerous and difficult. Rescuers used a jackhammer to open a hole in the rubble and special airbags capable of lifting 74 tons to lift up the concrete blocks.
We got enough lifting capacity with our airbags to lift a locomotive, so we should be able to lift it, but then we still got to pry him out of that automobile he's in.
Then 6 firefighters were lowered into the hole in an attempt to pry Pena free from his truck. Pena thought he was going to die and begged for someone to come down to him to pray. The fire captain told him they weren't going to pray, they were going to come down and get him out. Then, 8 hours after the rescue efforts began, Salvador Pena was miraculously lifted from his concrete cave to freedom. His painful moans pierced the air. Salvador was then gently placed in a stretcher and carried by his rescuers to a waiting ambulance. He was brought to a helicopter that airlifted him to UCLA Medical Center.
The one thing that was a very favorable sign is his vital signs stayed good throughout the entire rescue, and he was talking to us, so that was good.
Salvador has since undergone surgery and is listed in critical condition. A lucky survivor amongst the rubble and ruins of Los Angeles.
Well, I almost cried. I was elated. We all were. We felt very, very good that we got him out.
One volunteer who helped in the rescue of Pena later said it was one of the scariest things he had ever done.
Travel westbound on the 118. It'll be interesting to see if he'll travel right up to some of these collapsed areas.
TV4, I'm also northbound Interstate 5, 2,300.
Now take a look at this as we zoom back in. We believe, and we are fairly assured, that the president is in the first Cadillac following the CHP cruiser.
Just for him to grease the lines to make sure that things can move quickly through the system. There's another earthquake.
Grease the financial lines.
Right.
We have another woman here who actually...
Doug, we're going to jump in for just a moment, Doug, because the woman to whom you were speaking hit it right on the head. The second that she said, there's another earthquake, we felt it right here in Burbank. No doubt the president himself was in a position to feel this particular earthquake. You're looking at a live picture from our Seismocam. Let's see what's happening right now.
They seem to be scrambling.
As soon as it hit, they started moving the president back away from that crack in the Simi Freeway, and gathered. I can only assume that the president's within that knot of people that you see along the median edge there. But as soon as that quake hit, they moved him back away from that edge that separated, just on the off chance that the freeway could separate.
And we are watching President Clinton as he's looking down this broken pipe right there, one that ruptured during the earthquake, as many did throughout Southern California.
California is getting some help from Washington to try to cope with the effects of the earthquake. We do want to take a look at the situation as it stands now. The death toll from Monday's earthquake now stands at 46. According to Governor Wilson, damage could reach $30 billion. 40,000 homes and businesses still don't have water tonight. Another 52,000 homes don't have electrical power. And meanwhile, a dusk to dawn curfew in the city of Los Angeles remains in effect through Friday. Also, the grim search continues tonight for another quake victim inside the wreckage of a collapsed home in Studio City. Authorities believe they will find the body of an elderly woman who was killed as that four-story house tumbled down a hillside in the earthquake. Patrick Healy reports.
There's no way to tell by looking at what is left on this Studio City hillside, but until 4:31 a.m. Monday morning, here stood a custom four-story house barely 3 years old. Mike Minko lived here with his wife, her mother, and his.
It fell, my neighbor saw it, he said the whole thing slid this way and we went over that way. And I had no idea, we were in the top floor, I had no idea until we were rescued that we were on the ground. I thought just the roof collapsed, I still thought we were on top of the building. So when my neighbors came down with a ladder and threw the ladder in, that's when I realized we're on the ground.
See, I was sleeping in bed, and then I heard the shaking, and I thought, what should I do? What should I do? Should I jump? I didn't have time to think when another shake stronger, and a picture fell on me. I had above my bed a beautiful big picture. So this fell on my head, and then something more heavier fell. And then I see I couldn't move. It's already trapped me.